Welcome back to Good Morning Trinidad and Tobago on CTV and Talk City 91.1 FM. We want to switch gears this morning a little bit. Now we're going to talk about restorative justice and what it is. We're going to try to understand what it is and how we can promote restorative justice in Trinidad and Tobago. We have with us this morning Ms. Leela Ramdeen, who is the chair of the Catholic Commission for Social Justice and also an attorney. Good morning and welcome.
Good morning, good morning, Mr. Harinanan.
So we're talking restorative justice.
Yes.
What is restorative justice as we start?
Yes. In fact, it's an ancient system. It's nothing new. It's been used by indigenous communities in New Zealand, in North America, and right here in Trinidad and Tobago. I remember when we were young, my father used to tell us about the panchayat system that the Indian community used here to resolve disputes rather than going to court. So it's nothing new. There is a man called Howard Zare who is a key proponent of restorative justice, which he defines as a process. It's a continuum. So it's a process whereby all those who have a stake in a particular offense collectively will get together and address the harms that's been done, the needs and the obligations of the offender, to try and heal, to restore. Because when there's a crime committed at all levels, including in communities where it's a lower level social order crime, relationships are broken. And so restorative justice seeks to restore order and harmony in society. And our church, the Catholic Church, as you know, the bottom line for us is human dignity. Maintaining and promoting human dignity, both for the victim and the offender. Too often in our criminal justice system, the victim hardly gets a look in. You know, society look at, you've broken a law. How many of us think about the harm that's been done to the victim? So we need to, restorative justice embraces the victim. The processes include victim-offender mediation, community sentencing. There are different formats that's used. But at the end of the day, we want the victim to know that we care about the victim. How many victim support groups do we have in Trinidad and Tobago? One of the things that our Catholic bishops in the region, the Antilles Episcopal Conference, have said is that every parish should have a victim support group. And also for the offenders and their families. When people go to jail, who's looking after the family? So if we want to maintain justice in our society, as Pope Francis has said, a society that wants to be just and humane, in that society, justice should include restoration. Justice is only justice if it can restore people to society. Daniel Kahn, who was the former inspector of prisons, you would remember in his 2012 report, after that he produced that report, he had an interview with Cleavon Raphael. And he said in 2013, 98% of those who go into our prisons will come out into society. Only 2% will spend life. So we have an opportunity and an obligation to restore them, to rehabilitate them. There's certain concepts that's involved in restorative justice, like reparation, reconciliation, and rehabilitation, which we're not doing too good on, because if 53% of our people reoffend within 3 to 5 years of leaving prison, our recidivism rate is really high. And if our aim is to restore them to society so that they can be productive members of society, then we need to look at how we balance the need for people to be accountable, wrongdoers to pay for what they've done, but punishment should have, as the church says, a medicinal purpose. You're punished for what you have done, but we recognize your dignity and we want to restore you to society so you can pay back to society and be a productive citizen.
And that is probably the key thing, being able to give back to society, because while you speak, I was thinking, okay, so if somebody harms a member of my family, why should they see the day of light again? They should be locked up forever.
Yes, but I mean, there are ways in which all crimes don't
not all crimes. Say murder or something. Something that is a serious.
And so, in fact, we're having the Catholic Commission for Social Justice in collaboration with UE, the Faculty of Law, on Saturday, tomorrow, from 2 to 5. We want people to come. Admission is free. We've got a whole list, as you notice, of of key speakers who will be addressing the theme, understanding and promoting restorative justice in Trinidad and Tobago. This is nothing new here. In 2014, I was one of those who was asked to produce, as the chair of CCSJ, a document, an article that appeared in a pull-out supplement in all our newspapers by the then minister, the Ministry of Justice. They were going to promote restorative justice. We had a series of initiatives. For 3 years, I sat on a parole introduction committee, a cabinet-appointed committee. From 2004 to 2007, a report was produced. In 2014, the whole issue came back with a draft bill on parole. These are all parts of restorative justice, so that you don't warehouse people, but you find opportunities that's used around the world. And our committee was looking at models in different parts of the world, but what infrastructure we need here to introduce parole. Of course, like many things here, it died a natural death. There have been other initiatives here. The electronic monitoring bracelet, it broke my heart when I read in The Guardian on the 15th of May what Honorable Fitzgerald Hines, who's the chair of the select committee that was actually discussing electronic bracelets, he rightly said, it's not a wave coming at us, you know, for cracking crack. It's a tsunami. And what are we doing? You have a DPP office where I read that over 207 vacancies in our DPP office at different levels. So for restorative justice to work, for any justice system to work, the different arms and institutions in society must work. And they're not working. So many are deficient. For 3 years, I sat on the Police Service Commission. You know, I'm getting, having spent 32 years abroad and coming back here, I'm getting a real good insider view now of what we need to do to address the crime situation in Trinidad and Tobago. And we all know what we need to do.
What do we need to do?
We need to address the risk factors. The UNDP 2012 report on citizen security and human development here rightly told us that they listed a set of recommendations, but they said we need to get a better balance between law enforcement and preventive measures, with a focus on preventive measures to address particularly our young people. Too many of our young people, when you hear how many gang leaders now are really young children. So we have to address the risk factors, and some of the risk factors involve the need to strengthen family life. When you don't have families, one of the people who will be on our panel is there are 2 inmates coming, one there for 28 years and one for 25 years. So they're in there, their sentences were commuted to life. So when you hear how some of the people got in, started behaving badly and breaking the law, we have to strengthen family life. We need mentorship. Too many of our families, and our schools, too many of our schools don't have male role models, and the children at home don't have male role models, particularly the boys. So where are they going to see these role models? We need communities where those who have pulled themselves up by their shoestrings and have moved up the ladder will pull others up and not pull the ladder up. So role models, we need more role models.
But Ms. Ramdin, I've been hearing this for a while now.
Yes.
But what is happening?
Yeah, well,
so we continue to talk about it.
We had a mentorship program, a national mentorship program. What's happened to that? We have Justice Kokoram, who is involved in mediation. He's the head of the mediation team. We have like community peacemakers in the Catholic Church in San Fernando, Our Lady of Perpetual Help. So things are happening, but there's no coordinated approach. When we look at that interview with the statement that Honorable Fitzgerald Hines made about how long, so 2012 the law passed for electronic bracelets so you don't have an overcrowded remand yard. 2012, we're in 2018, and they're still talking about implementation. We're good at policies, we're good at legislation, we're not good at implementation, and that's what we need to address as well. So how do we change the culture for restorative justice to flourish? We have and proper justice to flourish. We need a culture where our attitudes and our practices will mean that we're doing business. We know what we have to do. Our forensic, we don't have proper forensics. We don't have proper management systems in the different departments, in police service, in the prison service. A prison from the time a prisoner enter prison. And we're focusing on prisons because we hear that the remand yard there, people are waiting for up to 17 years for the cases to be heard, right? So while you're in there, from the day you enter, there should be a plan. How are we going to rehabilitate this person? But of course, the nature and the conditions in our prisons, not conducive to restorative justice. So we have to train also the prison officers at all levels, and that's why we have the Assistant Commissioner of Prisons for Offender Management, who will be on the panel as well. What are we doing in our prisons to have a rehabilitation plan for everybody? And when they come out, there needs to be aftercare as well. You know, Wayne Chance alone can't do it with Vision on Mission. What is the government doing to have aftercare, not only halfway houses, but programs to help people so that they don't fall within the 53% who reoffend?
And I just want to see if I could put it into context for people looking on. So say you're 18 and you were convicted of a crime and you were sent into prison for 5 years. By the time you come out, you'd be 23. So you'd still be a young person. But that means you would have missed 5 years of your life and 5 years to probably get a job and something that would help you develop yourself. So, but
you could, in the prison, you see, this is if we have a rehabilitation plan, and there are many faith communities going in prisons to support. We had a plan called a Walk Tall program. Father Matthew Darrow was running that, a 40-week program where you come on board before you're released, and for those 40 weeks, they were trained and developed skills. There are many people in our prisons who can't read and write. Literacy is a big issue. So before you come out to try and look for a job, you have to develop your skills. And so you need programs like that. It shouldn't only be faith communities doing this. The government must have a program, and the Commissioner of Prisons with his team. How are we going to help people to develop their knowledge and skills and ability to come out there and do it? Our commission, we had bought a parcel of land in San Rafael, and we were running the Anthony Pantin Reintegration Center. Sadly, many of the people who used to come to us were drug addicts. Imagine you're coming out of prison. We were happy to receive you, but we couldn't cater for the drug addicts, which meant they were getting drugs in the prison. So we need to address issues such as that. And the whole issue about trying to address restorative justice in communities. There's the MP, Paul Goggins in England, who rightly said we have to embed restorative justice in our communities at all levels, in our schools, school discipline, anti-bullying. Neighbors can't get on together. So restorative justice is not only in relation to crime and sending people to prison and what we do there. It could permeate all aspects of our life. And this is what we're trying to do on Saturday, where we have people like Gregory Delzin, because it affects sentencing as well. So Gregory Delzin, as you know, is a prominent attorney at law, but also the chair of the Sentencing Commission in Trinidad and Tobago. Our Archbishop Jason Gordon, is starting it off. Hazel Thompson-Nahi was my law tutor at Hugh Wooding. She's an attorney and a licensed trainer on restorative practice. Glenda Jennings-Smith, the Parliamentary Secretary in the Ministry of National Security, will be talking about the government's role in promoting restorative justice. The Assistant Commissioner of Prisons, Carlos Carraspi, for Offender Management. Saron Richards, who's the President of the Prison Association. Aloy Yuxi, who is a social worker, mediator, former welfare officer in the prison service, and a talk show host. And the two inmates, Andrew Douglas and Natasha De Leon. So, and Professor Rosemary Bell Antwine, who's the Dean of the Faculty of Law, will be welcoming participants, and I will be the moderator. It's a long list of speakers, but it's a start. Well, it's not a start. I've sat in so many panels discussing restorative justice. If only we could, I have the paper that I had submitted in 2014 to the Ministry of Justice. So many good ideas. Why can't we follow through? What is it with us? We have really bright people in Trinidad and Tobago, Why can't we follow through and implement?
So it's a lot of work that the organizations are doing to try to ensure that there is some sort of restorative justice in Trinidad and Tobago. But I want to play devil's advocate here for a minute and ask you your thoughts on people saying that, sometimes it seems that people in prison seem to be living such a luxurious life.
You asked, I was on Andy Johnson's radio program recently with Burton Hill, who is a welfare officer in the prison. We know Justice Carol Gobin actually said the prisons in Trinidad and Tobago are hellholes, right? 2,500 or so are on remand, waiting for the trial. There are over 750 of them waiting for trial for murder for years and years and years. If you want swift justice, that's what will frighten the offenders. If they know they're going to be caught and there's a swift system through the courts, and they will and then there will be justice. They might be more afraid. But if you know the rate of actually being caught is only about, you have a 90% chance or 80% chance of getting away, they will take it. You know, so we don't have swift justice, and so we need to look at how we strengthen and beef up national security, beef up all our institutions to make sure that things work. We have so many courts. We spend hours for justice on time to bring people to court, and they just come. The magistrate has a huge backlog, so they have to go back. Why so long? We're talking about putting courts in the prisons, so you don't have to waste millions taking justice on time and deal with the matters. Appoint more magistrates, lay magistrates. The other systems used in England, we have lay magistrates. If we don't have enough magistrates, use retired people. Our judges, for 25 years ago, the Law Association said our judges, we should beef up the judge by extending the years, the age at which they retire to about 75 or so. And no, we haven't done it. So the judges retire really early. They still have a long life ahead of them, and we complain that we can't deal with the matters in court.
They probably want to, relax after doing this for so long.
No, but many people in the legal profession and in the wider community really feel that the retirement age for judges should be extended. And I think the governments in the past have agreed to that. Why can't we do it?
So that's a discussion that we can probably have for another day. Ms. Leela Ramdeen, Chair of the Catholic Commission for Social Justice and Attorney at Law, thank you for joining us.
And I invite everybody to come along tomorrow, 2 to 5, the Nur Hassan Ali
Auditorium,
Faculty of Law. Please come and share.
And it's a long list. They are talking restorative justice, understanding and promoting restorative justice in Trinidad and Tobago. All right, so we have to end that segment there, and we go to our local weather forecast.